The Grace Community Quilt was designed in piece by quilters who wanted to be a part of the 2024 grand opening but could not attend the in-person event.
We had just moved into our new building and it was beautiful. When you walked into the classroom, there was this huge white wall, just massive and bare and just kind of lonely. And talking to the ladies that were coming to our focus groups, there's a lot of joking about how we should have a retreat. We should all meet in one place and just meet each other face to face. Of course, that's a little bit difficult. The logistics are hard, and so I thought, what if we just had a way to bring a piece of everyone here to Grace Company?
So I decided the next best thing was to bring you all here by creating a community quilt.
And what if everyone was able to donate a block or a piece of one giant quilt that could fill that wall and bring in some warmth and some color, but also leave a piece of every member of the community here at Grace Company.
Alrighty, well, welcome everybody.
I had no idea how to get a community quilt put together. The logistics of it were beyond me, but I knew that we had quilters in our community who were very capable of making that happen. So I reached out to a couple of volunteers and pitched a half-baked idea and said, what do you think? And they were excited about it. They wanted to try, and they had immediately just had great ideas on how to make something really special for Grace Company.
Let's meet a couple of these volunteers and hear how they became a part of the Grace Company family and this project.
Hi, I'm Didi Concepcion. I live in Orlando, Florida. I started quilting during the pandemic just for something to do. I had never sewn two pieces of fabric together before. My mom was a sewer, not a quilter. I started on a very small machine and quickly learned about the Grace Company and the cutie frame, and then I upgraded to the 19X Elite, and now I have my Evolution Elite, and I am definitely a Grace Company fan.
I go to the Houston International Quilt Festival as often as I can since it's pretty close, and that's where I met Grace. I love going to the festival because you get to play on all these different machines and frames and things, and that's where I started with my cutie frame. And then the last year that I went, I purchased the 19X Elite, and that's my baby. After I bought my 19X Elite, I think I wrote to Grace to let him know how happy I was with it and the whole experience that I had in Houston purchasing it. And in there, I put that I would be very interested in joining any beta groups or any testing groups or anything like that. And shortly thereafter, I got an email to be invited to be part of this focus group. And that's where I met Dee Dee. And we've actually been to a quilting retreat together and spent time together in person, even though we live 5 states away from each other, which was fun.
Susan and I really hit it off in the group. And then when we met in person for the first time at that retreat, we really hit it off. And we sat right next to each other. And Susan and I, we giggled a lot.
What I would love is to have a quilt on this wall so that anybody that comes in also gets to join your group, and you get to be here with them as well.
Well, I was intrigued when Jacqueline brought it up during one of our Zoom calls, just because I love the idea of all the ladies that we get together with weekly on these calls coming together to create something beautiful that exemplifies the home-based quilters, putting that together, and I just loved being asked to be a part of that.
I was excited when Jacqueline asked Susan and I to come together and come up with ideas for 3 different quilt blocks for the community quilt that she could ask members of the focus group to put together. And I love the idea. It's a great community when we get together and do the focus groups. So to make a community quilt with blocks from everyone in our group was really exciting and fun. And I love to create blocks. I'm still learning myself how to make my own patterns. So it was a great opportunity to work on patterns and work with Susan.
Volunteer quilters were given a choice of 3 blocks to submit using their own fabrics and colors with a background of white and a block size of 12 inches.
The spool of thread we had seen It was a free pattern on a website. I think the house, we had seen a few and we tweaked it so that it was good for our purposes. And then the sewing machine, it's actually, I tried to make it to represent a long arm, a Grace long arm. But because we were making smaller blocks, some people are calling it the Little Rebel. Some people are saying it's just a sewing machine, but it was supposed to really be a long arm for Grace long arm.
Dee Dee and I threw lots of ideas back and forth to each other. I tried, and I know she did too. We tried different patterns to exemplify sewing, quilting, pulling that all together. And I envisioned, and I think Dee Dee did too, the sewing machine, the spool of thread, and then coming up with something else. And when we found that home block, to me, that just pulled it together and spoke about the home-based quilters. And one block that I made for the quilt was some special fabric that has the name of my granddaughter in it. And so I did make one block that has her name on it, on the fabric.
I thought that was Jacqueline's idea. She came up with the idea to put, she wanted to have the block truly represent the people in the focus group. So she asked everybody to either write with a fabric pen their names on the blocks, or if you could embroider your name on the blocks and where you're from, so that when it was up, everyone who came to the Grace Company and went into the room that saw it could see everybody that contributed to the quilt.
We received 90 blocks from all over the country.
So as the quilt was starting to come together, we started to get the blocks coming in. It was like Christmas every day, always a stack of envelopes of quilt blocks. And I would talk frequently to some of our team members in China, one of whom is Sophia, the director of operations, who's over our factory and all of the workers there. And I said, Sophia, you need to put a block in the quilt. We need a piece of you here all the time. Sophia picked her block, the one that she wanted, and she sent over some of her favorite colors. And I sent my daughter on a hunt, kind of played hide and seek looking for some fabrics, and she had a couple of different combinations and options. And we sent those pictures back to Sophia, and she gave thumbs up on the ones that she wanted. Our employees here pieced it together. We also did one for Charlotte. She's another one of our team members in China. Charlotte does a lot of our sourcing. So when we need to find materials or something for the products that we create, she goes out to the factories and finds those pieces. And so she did the same thing. She picked her fabrics, she picked the design, and our team members here quilted that block. And then we had another team member here who's very talented in calligraphy, and she put the names on those blocks in the Chinese characters to really represent who they are and what they mean to our company.
The first block was submitted by Jan Hansen, wife of our facilities manager, Devon.
Come on in. This is my sewing room. My first quilt I made when I was expecting our first child. And I was expecting a little girl, so I made a pink quilt. And I got it almost finished, and then I had my first boy. And I finished it with my second boy, and I used it on my third boy. We were getting ready to go on vacation, and I thought, I need to just get this done before I leave. And it was a paper piecing project, which I had never done. So I looked it all up on YouTube and learned how to do it, and I just hurried and did that. It was a real fun project for me just because it was something new to learn. And so I got it done before we left on vacation.
We asked Jan what she thought of being the first quilter to submit a block for the project.
I was surprised. I was really surprised. I thought everybody'd be as excited to get it done as me. So it was fun to be first.
We had a lot of special blocks submitted. Gail Wolkin and her granddaughter, Grace, worked on blocks for the community quilt together.
I just thought it was a great idea. I met a lot of people through the focus group of the Grace Company, and I just thought it was a fun, quick project, and we could be a part of something bigger than just doing it ourselves.
Gail and her granddaughter both decided to make the spool of thread block for their contributions.
I just explained to her what I was thinking of doing, and I showed her the pattern for the school of thread that she liked it. And I gave her a choice of what kind of fabric she wanted to use, and we just went from there.
Gail is no stranger to volunteering her time and talent to quilting projects for the community.
I work with a group in Oregon called the Sandpiper Project, and it's a group that donates quilts to children who are battling cancer and other life-changing diseases in hospitals in that area.
It took several volunteers to put the pieces together.
So once I had all the blocks in a big stack on my desk, it was time to piece it. And so I cleared out the classroom and laid them all out on the floor and tried to find a good arrangement, some way to make that look nice. My OCD kept trying to find a way to make a nice pattern. And so just started putting it together. It took most of an afternoon. It was a labor of love, and it was just so wonderful to sit there and to touch every one of those pieces and to see the fabrics that were chosen and the colors that were chosen and the meaning that was put into each and every one of those blocks. It was just having a conversation with everyone who participated in this quilt, and I put that top together.
A couple of our amazing team members helped finish the quilt. Marie added the border and Lori hand-bound the entire quilt.
I so enjoyed quilting it when we had decided, or Jacqueline decided that she would have someone at Grace sew the top together. I asked if I could quilt it, if she didn't mind. And then when she agreed, I was so excited. And then I asked her if she minded if I just did overall swirls. Swirls are my favorite thing to do. And she said, sure. So I quilted it with my cutie frame and the 19X Elite. It is a very large quilt. So at one point it got too heavy to move. So I would have to wait for my husband to be home to help me pick it up and move it from zone to zone because it was just too much. It was when most of it was, because I float, well, I used to on my cutie. So when it was all on the floor, still hanging, it wasn't hard. But when the roll got bigger and bigger, it was very hard to move from side to side or at all, even to roll it up more. So I would wait for my husband to be home. So he would pick up one side, I'd pick up the other side, and we'd move it to the next zone.
Our very own Devon Hansen had the honor of hanging the community quilt.
One of the interesting things about hanging the quilt was the weight and the size. And so as I looked at it, I needed to get special brackets to hang a quilt of this size. And so in mounting those to the wall, and it required extra ones that I normally don't need to put up, I tried to lift it up and get it up with a ladder, but it was just too big and too heavy. So I got Michael, and we came in, and together with the scissor lift, we're able to lift it up and get it in the right position where it needed to be.
After we pieced the top and quilted the top and added an extra border and quilted that and then bound it, the final product ended up being a little over 9 feet by a little over 10 feet. And we hung it on the wall, and as soon as you walk into classroom 4, it's a showstopper. It just catches your eye and invites you to come into that space.
Oh, the community quilt.
Oh, wow. Nice. Oh, it came out so good.
My gosh, it's beautiful.
I thought it was huge. It was very big, and it looks really beautiful up on the wall. I was surprised at how many blocks there are on it. I thought it was wonderful.
Every time I see that community quilt, I feel grateful to know so many wonderful people and wonderful quilters. I'm reminded of the love they have for each other, for their family, for their communities, and their passion for this art form. And I am humbled by their willingness to share and their generosity in participating in creating this work of art.
Come see the Grace Community Quilt for yourself at our West Jordan, Utah facility.